Some dates just echo through history. Dates that mark a massive turning point. And March 15th? That's one of them. For over 2,000 years, the Ides of March has meant one thing: betrayal. So let's dive into the day a group of senators murdered the most powerful man in Rome, and in doing so, accidentally created an empire. It's got to be one of the most famous warnings in all of history, right? The story goes that a soothsayer flat out told Julius Caesar, hey, watch your back on the Ides of March. So on the day itself, Caesar sees the soothsayer on his way to the Senate and kind of jokes, well, the Ides of March have come, like the danger was over, and the soothsayer's reply was just chilling. I, Caesar, but not gone. Wow, the stage was absolutely set. And this number tells you just how brutal that day really was. 23. That's how many times Caesar was stabbed. This wasn't some quick, clean assassination. No, this was a frenzy, a slaughter carried out by dozens of men Caesar worked with, men he considered colleagues, and yeah, even friends. So, how in the world did it come to this? Let's go back and set the scene for that fateful day, March 15th, 44 BCE. Okay, the location itself is just dripping with irony. You see, the main Senate house was being rebuilt, so they were meeting somewhere else. And where does Caesar end up getting killed? Right at the foot of a giant statue of Pompey the Great, his arch-rival, the man he had just defeated in a massive civil war to become the sole ruler of Rome. I mean, you literally couldn't write a more dramatic or symbolic ending. Now, to understand why he was murdered, we have to understand the man himself and the unbelievable power he had. So, who exactly was Julius Caesar? Just look at this timeline for a second. His rise was absolutely meteoric. I mean, in a little over a decade, he goes from a famous general to the undisputed, absolute ruler of the entire Roman world. Crossing the Rubicon, that was a straight-up act of treason, but he won the war that followed, and the Senate just kept piling on the honors until he gave him the title Dictator Perpetuo, dictator for life. Now, for a republic that was basically allergic to the idea of kings, this was a massive, terrifying red flag. But here's the twist. While the powerful old families were getting terrified, Caesar was wildly popular with regular people. Why? Well, he gave land to the poor. He reformed the calendar. We're still using a version of it today, the Julian calendar. He was a champion for the people. But every one of these popular reforms just further terrified the traditional senators, who felt like he was ripping up centuries of tradition and stealing all their power. And this gets us right to the heart of the matter, to the big question behind it all. What was the real motive? Were these guys patriots trying to save their country, or were they just rich guys trying to protect their own power and privilege? They actually called themselves the Liberatores, the Liberators. And this wasn't just a handful of guys. It was a huge conspiracy, about 60 senators all in on it. Their public reason, their PR spin, if you will, was super noble. They were freeing Rome from a tyrant to restore the Republic. So you end up with these two completely opposite views of the same man. To his soldiers and the masses, he was a hero bringing order and much-needed reform. But to the senators, he was a power-hungry monster, a tyrant who was just one step away from putting on a crown and calling himself king. And the crazy thing is, both sides had evidence to back up their view. That's what makes it all so fascinating. And the ringleaders? Well, the plot was really driven by a guy named Cassius. But the big name, the one that gave the whole thing a sense of legitimacy, was Marcus Brutus. See, Caesar had pardoned Brutus after the Civil War, he promoted him, he treated him like a son. So his betrayal was a huge symbolic blow. And then there's Decimus Brutus, one of Caesar's most trusted generals. He was the one who personally went to Caesar's house that morning and convinced him to go to the Senate, even though Caesar was feeling sick and hesitant. Talk about cold. So the liberators strike down Caesar. They're probably expecting the Roman people to pour into the streets and carry them on their shoulders, celebrating them as heroes. Yeah, that is not what happened. Not even close. Instead of cheers, there was shock, then horror, and then pure, unadulterated rage. The people didn't see a dead tyrant. They saw their champion, the guy who gave them land and stability, butchered by a bunch of rich aristocrats. The public mood didn't just turn against them, it swung against them with incredible force. And the real tipping point was Caesar's funeral. His right-hand man, Mark Antony, gave this absolute masterpiece of a speech. He showed the crowd Caesar's bloody toga, pointed out all the stab wounds, and then he read from Caesar's will, which, it turned out, left a generous gift to every single citizen of Rome. That speech was like throwing a match on a powder keg. It unleashed a firestorm of fury that forced Brutus, Cassius, and the others to literally run for their lives. And this is where we get to the ultimate, staggering irony of the whole story. The assassination achieved the exact opposite of what it was supposed to do. It didn't save the Republic, it hammered the final nail in its coffin. The murder plunged Rome into another bloody civil war. Caesar's heir, Octavian, teamed up with Mark Antony, they hunted down the liberators and defeated them, and when the dust settled from all that fighting, one man was left standing, Octavian. In 27 BCE, he took the name Augustus and became the very first Roman emperor. The Republic was officially dead. So, you see, while the liberators managed to kill the man, they completely failed to kill his idea. In fact, you could say they made it permanent. Caesar's legacy was going to outlive every single one of them and basically shape the future of the Western world. The scale of his impact is just mind-boggling. We still use his calendar. His name, Caesar, literally became the word for emperor in places like Germany with Kaiser and Russia with Tsar. The Senate in Rome officially made him a god, the divine Julius. But his biggest, most important legacy? His death was the event that directly led to the end of the Roman Republic and the birth of the Roman Empire. Which brings us to the final, lingering question that hangs over this whole story. In their desperate attempt to stop Caesar from becoming a king, did the liberators accidentally murder the very republic they claimed they were trying to save? Or maybe the republic was already dying on its own, and Caesar was just a symptom. That is the great, tragic irony of the Ides of March.